Once the biggest entertainment franchise in the world, Star Wars has been arguably run into the ground under the stewardship of Disney and the direct leadership of Lucasfilm president Kathleen Kennedy. In retrospect, the sequel trilogy proved to be a creative dead end, which drove audiences away, as evident by the box office gross being cut in half from the first to the last installment. Jon Favreau reignited enthusiasm with The Mandalorian, but Kathleen Kennedy's Lucasfilm killed even that spark when they fired Gina Carano in a very ugly and very public manner. On our tri-weekly live show, Midnight's Edge in the Morning, we sat down with writer and producer Kamran Pasha to discuss if there was any hope of recovery for Star Wars from this point onwards. Over the course of that discussion, Kamran shared some key insights into how Kathleen Kennedy was able to gain the power she has, what it would take to take her down, and which signs to look for when a change of direction for Lucasfilm draws near.
Suddenly you had this cult of people like Miss Kennedy, like Miss Heard, who are these woke liberal white women who essentially thought they had taken the town, right? And they were in control. And I worked with people like that, and they were the most nefarious people I've ever worked with, right? Because they suddenly thought they had felt like, oh, the white man held me back, and now it's my moment, right, to be the white man, the man, right? I mean, literally, it was this pathology that was coming out of a very specific group within Hollywood, and everyone was afraid of them. And Kathleen Kennedy was the figure of that person, right? And then Amber Heard became the emotional, archetype of that person, and everyone was scared of them, because they were inevitably malicious people that didn't care about anything that they were saying, and had been given power in response to the politics of Mr. Trump being elected and all of that. But that era is ending, and I believe the last one that's going to hold out is Miss Kennedy. But I think she went down with her Gina Carano, who is a real powerful woman, white or otherwise. She went after the wrong person, and I do think this will be the end of her journey, whether it happens a few weeks from now or a few months from now. I think it's over.
Wouldn't that just be ironic, though, if she's taken down by a strong woman?
That's the only one that could take her down. That's the inevitable thing. Anyone else, you'd be able to go sexism, blah, 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 blah. It needed to be Gina Carano to be the catalyst. No one else could have done it.
On that note, that's actually something that I've been waiting to ask, which goes back to the thumbnail and the title of this very conversation after the Gina Carano thing, which I think is bigger than anyone involved thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Like, what kind of, because I know from several people in the industry, they thought that this was going to blow over. Gina Carano wasn't such a big thing. Is there some kind of waking realization in the industry that, holy shit, this is bigger than we thought, for one thing, and the other is there any way back for Lucasfilm from this?
I will answer that, which is, I will tell you the reactions. When Gina was under fire, I mentioned to a producer friend of mine that, I'm friendly with her. We had DM'd a few times, whatever. And he started sending me all these articles about her being a right-wing person, to be careful of her and whatever. And he's like, oh, yeah, and I said, well, she's always been gracious to me, so I don't know what you're talking about. And then shortly after her firing and then the backlash, the same person contacted me and said, I think she was kind of wronged. I know what she was trying to say. He's a Jewish guy, so he said, I, as a Jewish person, was not offended by her comparison. I saw what she posted. I understand what she was trying to say. I won't come out and put myself out there and support her. And then he said, but I'm a fan. I think she's a sweetheart. And it was just a strange thing for him. The same guy that a few weeks before had been saying to me, you should be careful. She's a Trumper. She probably doesn't like Muslims. He's sending me this stuff. And then he's like, I'm a fan of hers. This is a gentleman that I respect, but he's also one that I gauge to see where the flow of Hollywood is, because he's the kind of guy that will repeat what the flow is, right? Wherever the industry is streaming, he's going to be repeating that narrative. When Governor Cuomo of New York was the hero, he would defend him to me and say, all that's just right-wing propaganda that he killed all those old people. He's not saying that anymore because the town is no longer saying that, right? And so this is a gentleman that reflects the town. And now suddenly he's like, well, Gina's a sweetheart. I'm sorry it happened to her. So it was interesting to see that change. That to me reflects that the stream of the industry has gone in the direction, Andre, that you're suggesting, which is that they're now realizing this didn't play out the way we thought. Wow, okay. Well, she's a sweetheart. We've only heard good things about her. The change is remarkable, and it's from the same person within a few weeks. So that reveals something to me.
Indeed. And what about Lucasfilm? Because surely there must be blowback from this within Disney. because they must see the numbers. And we have heard from our sources that the Kennedy faction are trying to point the finger at Favreau and say, look, she's one of his. This is on him. Give us his budgets. I don't know if you've heard something similar to that, but if in a situation like that, how would Disney respond? Do they recognize who's at fault here?
Oh, I mean, I'm sure Disney recognizes who's at fault here. I mean, I think, because I said a year ago, Disney had figured out that woke is broke. I mean, a year ago, before the events of the virus and the lockdowns and the riots over the summer, Disney had already said, we're done with this. We're a for-profit company. I'd heard that. I know you've heard that from your sources, but I heard that from friends of mine who were writing for them. They're like being told, just let this woke crap go. We just want to make money now. And then the virus and the lockdowns made them even more desperate for money. And then the events of the summer happened, where the rioting happened and it was politically tinged, and suddenly they became afraid. They knew that the woke element was not profitable, but then they became afraid that these people would show and burn down the building, literally, right? So now they had to go along with it. And that was the political climate of fear of the radical left that Kathleen Kennedy and her acolytes were able to use to get Gina Carano out, because the industry, was and is still afraid of the radical left physically burning down the town. They're afraid of that. And so the problem is the bean counters all know this isn't profitable. And because, as you guys have reported, Hasbro and others have already shut down the production of the Gina Carano toys, and that was profitable for them. And I canceled Disney Plus the day that Gina was let go. I'm sure tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of people did. They saw those numbers in the same way they saw the numbers spike after Luke Skywalker returned. I had not subscribed. I refused to watch The Mandalorian until I heard Luke was back. Then I subscribed that day, and now I've unsubscribed again because of Gina, right? They've seen that up and down. They witnessed that. I'm the symbol of that, right? I subscribe on a certain event and I unsubscribe after a certain event. The bean counters all see that. They all know what this is. So so what is happening is this Lucasfilm civil war has now gone really, really intense behind the scenes. And I know I'm going to say this, there are definitely people that want Ms. Kennedy out, right? And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, I would be shocked if that didn't include Mr. Chapek, who's a bean counter, right? Who's like, this isn't good for our finances. This isn't good for the shareholders. How do you do that politically, especially in the current environment with people are afraid of the woke crowds, right? They have to find a way to do it. So I think the telltale sign will come if you start getting sort of the rumors spreading like they have been spreading with Amber Heard. Which is the leaks being sent out in some way degrading Kathleen Kennedy's reputation. The moment one of those comes out and you start hearing people saying nasty stuff about Kathleen Kennedy, rumors, that's when the kill move is being prepared. And I think that's coming.
According to Kamran Pasha's observations from directly within the industry, the tide would appear to be turning and not in Kennedy's favor. Now we know which signs to be on the lookout for. Let us know your thoughts on all of this in the comments.